Welcome back. 2020, we can all agree, was a crazy year. And it's not over yet. No joke. Guess what's coming up? Tax season. In fact, we're already in it. April 15th looks to be our tax deadline for our 2020 taxes. And if you're like me, you've got all kinds of bank statements and credit card statements. Maybe you were unemployed. Maybe you own a small business and took some of the stimulus money and some of the PPP loans. All kinds of paperwork nightmares, at least potential problems for everybody coming up for their 2020 taxes. So to sort through a lot of this, I'm joined tonight by Mark Staber, who's a tax preparation professional. Mark, we thank you for your time, and walk us through some of the big issues folks need to be aware of as they get ready to file those taxes for 2020.
Well, your tax return is your single largest financial transaction for Americans every year, and it really reflects what happens in your tax year. And as we all know, 2020 was the epic year of all years for people, for their lives, for their working, for their households, and all the rest. And their tax returns will get caught up in that. So whether it's the economic impact stimulus payments, the first bucket and the second bucket, whether it's the mutual tax law changes, the first CARES Act, and then the stimulus bill passed just a week or two ago, whether it's unemployment and unemployment benefits that 60 million people took advantage of, or it's the 40 million people that file as self-employed individuals to help make ends meet. All of that will get captured on the 2020 tax return. So there's a great deal of opportunity, a lot of tax breaks in all the tax bills, and even in the old law before the tax bills were passed that help people get bigger refunds. But there's a lot to watch and a lot to watch out for when you're doing your taxes for 2020, as is almost fitting for the end of the year.
Mark, you just mentioned unemployment benefits. There was about 60 million people, you said, who had received unemployment during 2020. What specifically do those folks have to keep in mind for their paperwork for their 2020 taxes?
Yeah, unemployment benefits create some of the big trip-ups for taxpayers on a given year. And given that 2020, there's near 60 million people in a variety of programs that have been both expanded, extended, and even layered on with new federal programs, there's a lot more areas for risk on a tax return. I would leave your audience with a couple of things to keep in mind if they were unemployed during the year, or you got unemployment benefits, more importantly. First of all, unemployment benefits are fully taxable. Just like any other income, they go on your tax return, you pay taxes. If you leave it off, the IRS will probably notify you of that nasty letter, tax liability, penalties, and interest. So put your unemployment benefits on your tax return. Equally problematic this year, as I mentioned, there were several programs that were extended and expanded in every state, including Missouri. So you may have 1, 2, or 3 or more forms reporting those benefits to you, depending on which program you took advantage of. And not all forms are being mailed in the mail. Some states, you have to go online and download it. So make sure you have all of your 1099-G information statements related to your unemployment benefits. Thirdly, and equally problematic, unemployment benefits, different than regular wages, are not automatically having taxes withheld. You have to opt in when you apply for the benefit program. And if you don't opt in, which most Americans do not because they're already concerned about their economics, then you'll have to true that up at tax time. So you pay taxes on it, but you didn't have any withholding. And even if you did opt in, it's only 10%. So you can have kind of a swing on your tax refund if you didn't pay taxes on unemployment benefits. And fourth and finally, unemployment benefits, are accounted for differently on other benefit programs, like earned income tax credit on a tax return that about 27 million people take, or child tax credit, or education independent credits. They're not considered earned income for calculation of those credits. And so you could have a lot amount of income, both earned and unemployment benefits, but you might not have the same amount in calculating your earned income credit or other credits, and they could be reduced. Further compounded with a late law change that says, well, if you have that, you can look at last year. So unemployment benefits, very confusing in a normal year. 2020 with 60 million people and a variety of programs and some law changes could make it more difficult for people to understand what the rules are. More important than ever to use a tax pro to sort through all of that. But more important for you as a taxpayer, get all of your documents, understand your situation, and communicate that clearly to your tax professional.
I can't even imagine, Mark, what some of the paperwork mounds that the people are having to work through when they're getting ready to file their taxes. And again, April 15th as of now is the deadline. Do we have any information to suggest that the date might get pushed back like it was last year?
Well, so far the IRS has not messaged that, not that they get to choose. It came from our politically elected officials. And, last year was a little bit different. I would argue that, the pandemic had just struck and everybody was kind of in a bit of a panic. Not that it's any less today, but certainly people are starting to manage it a little differently. So far, I've not heard that. The IRS has not even mentioned that. And I've not really heard any politically elected officials say we need to push the date back. So I would go into it with better safe than sorry. File early, certainly before April 15th. And in fact, it's just generally a best practice to file your taxes as early as possible. One, you get it out of the way. Two, if you're due a refund, like 3 out of 4 Americans are every year, you get your money. Filing early, you lock your data in so those bad tax schemers can't steal your data and file a fake tax return. And fourth, if you're waiting for a tax refund shock or by gosh, you have to have a payment due, if you file early, you have until April to make that payment, even under the old law. So filing early makes a lot of sense. Waiting never really kind of made sense to me. And this year, I would tell you more importantly than ever, it's a good best practice to do it.
Mark Staber, thank you again for your advice. Folks, good luck with getting everything filed. As you heard the advice, early has a lot of advantages, but April 15th is the deadline as of now. And we'll be back after this.